Ball State's campus has been ever-changing in the last 100 years, but today is the Centennial celebration of all that history on Ball State University's campus, right here inside Emmons Auditorium. With Olivia Jansen, I'm Meg Tidrow. Well, Olivia, it's been a big celebration leading up to this point, but now it's the 100-year celebration, unveiling of the documentary, a special broadcast put on by WIPB and SportsLink, but the event as a whole, right now everybody getting excited about the documentary.
Yeah, Mick, this documentary is huge on Ball State's campus, and it's just really exciting to see how much Ball State has changed as a whole since its beginnings in 1918, and then even as its establishment as a university 53 years ago, and then especially in the last couple of years with President Mearns coming in as Ball State's 17th president and the relaunch of a new brand, We Fly.
So We Fly really took off last year with everything coming together, so much video, banners, everything's put up for the Centennial event, and everybody got ready for that. President Mearns with a big part of that.
Yeah, and this is a big year for Ball State, not even just with the documentary, but the biggest enrollment in Ball State history with 22,500 students. So it's definitely a big year for Ball State, and it's a great time for President Mearns to come in and introduce that new brand.
And President Mearns has really established himself as a takeover of the Centennial event. The documentary as itself, but President Mearns has really helped lay the foundation of everything here this year.
President Mearns will be introducing the documentary later. And back to the documentary, it's huge, like we talked about, all those students and all those hours that went into that. What do you think about that?
Over 41 students put their hand into this documentary with Chris Fluke, the instructor, around this Ball State campus. So a very special process to get this documentary ready here today. 7-month process. Olivia, what an outstanding time here at Ball State right now.
It's really exciting. Even on campus all day, there have been events going on leading up to the opening of this documentary later, and everyone's really excited to see it, Mick.
Hopefully the weather holds off, keep the rain away outside Emmons Auditorium for the red carpet. All the events taking place before the documentary does. There in about an hour, we'll get President Mearns on the stage and have him open up to get the documentary ready here inside Emmons Auditorium. But before that, there is a lot to go on here today.
Yeah, Mick, there's definitely been a lot going on, as we mentioned before, and everyone, I'm sure, is really excited for the opening of the documentary later, and the orchestra behind us is actually going to be playing as the documentary airs.
So the orchestra, everybody outside ready on the red carpet, everybody trying to keep the rain away. There is tents, everybody trying to stay dry out there here today. But so many immersive programs have been able to be brought onto campus because of the We Fly initiative. Education Redefined has really been taken over by this We Fly, and everybody now starting to put their hand into the Centennial documentary. Well, let's send it out to the red carpet here with Alex Thomas and Jack Kaiser. Out to you guys at SportsLink at the red carpet outside Emmons Auditorium.
The rain cannot keep us down. We are under the tent here at Emmons Plaza. Centennial Celebration, Ball State University, 6:30 to 7:15, as you see on your screen right there. We have red carpet arrivals before the documentary premiere, and then the party starts at 9 on Riverside. Music, trucks, fireworks, we've got it all. And we are here with former President Joanne Gora of the university with Alex Thomas. I'm Jack Kaiser. Thanks for joining us, former President Gora, 14th president of Ball State University. What are you most looking forward to about all the events tonight?
Well, I'm really interested in seeing the video. I was invited back to participate in the making of the video, and I know it was an enormous undertaking for the students to really try to put together something that would be meaningful for this occasion. And I'm sure that they were up for the task, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the product. So, and of course, it's great to come back and see so many old friends.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you were so integral in creating a lot of this campus while you were here.
Yes.
As you come back through campus and drive through, what's it like seeing some of those buildings you were so important in funding?
Well, you know, in the 10 years that I was president, we gained the funding for more than 29 buildings. And I say more than because when I left, we had funding, but the buildings hadn't gone up yet for some things like the new golf center and some of the new athletic facilities. So it's exciting to see the campus thriving, and I'm really excited about a new building that I had nothing to do with, and that is the new academic building for the health science professions. That's an exciting movement forward for the university. So congratulations to President Mearns and to the folks who were responsible for gaining the funding for that important new addition.
So many great things happened in your tenure, but what was your favorite aspect about leading this university for 10 years?
You know, it was always so much fun to meet with students and faculty because The students were always so committed and so interested in what they were doing and excited and enthusiastic about their classes. And the faculty here really are committed to the students and really care about undergraduate education. So it was just a wonderful time to be here because people were excited about immersive learning, people were excited about community-based projects. Of course, the telecommunications program really took off during that time with the sports program and the initiative in the areas of sports, where students really were broadcast nationally and got a chance to showcase themselves nationally. So it's giving students that platform that I think was so exciting for us to really showcase our students and what they had been able to accomplish with their faculty mentors.
And you talked about the telecommunications program
Yes.
and how that really grew. In your time here as the Letterman building went up,
Yes.
maybe throughout that experience, I mean, how surreal is it to see that thing standing now and so successful?
Well, you know, bringing David Letterman back to campus was just thrilling. When he first came back, he had not been back to the university for 38 years. And then he came back 4 out of the next 5 years. The last year he brought Oprah Winfrey with him. You know, when you're on stage with David Letterman and Oprah Winfrey, you think, okay, it's not going to get any better than this. Time to leave, you know. I've done what I can do here. But it was exciting. And Dave's commitment to the university was extraordinary, is extraordinary, and was tremendous fun in developing. And he did a lot for us and continues to care about the university.
David Letterman, part of the 100 years here at the university. But what impact would you say overall has this university had on the state of Indiana?
Well, you know, I think Ball State is a critical part of the economic prosperity of this state, because we, more than many of the research universities, produce graduates that really drive this economy. Our students come from Indiana and they stay in Indiana by and large. You know, some of the larger research universities, almost 50% of their students are either international or from out of state. And that's not been true for Ball State, where 80% of our students come from Indiana. So I think of us as a university that creates the workforce for Indiana and really the intellectual capital for the state. We have a strong entrepreneurial bent. We have a strong interest in creating entrepreneurial students, and I think that's a tremendous advantage for Indiana.
The last question I have to ask you, your name's on the rec center here.
Yes.
What does that mean to you? Every time we go to the rec center, we see your name. What does that really mean to you?
Well, you know, it was a wonderful way for the Board of Trustees to honor me when I left, and it's somewhat traditional. You know, John Worthen's name is on the arena. It's somewhat traditional. If the board feels that you've done a good job, that they look for a building to put your name on. The Recreation and Wellness Center was one of my pet projects. The idea for it and the design for it started my first semester on campus, believe it or not. It came from students. We spent many years designing it, developing the funding for it, and then building it. Of course, it opened before I left, and I got a chance to play basketball in it with my husband, which is not something I'd like to repeat. He'd like to repeat, but the freshmen who played basketball with us, you'd have to ask them whether they'd like to repeat it. But at any rate, it's a wonderful place. Somebody told me it's called the Jogo Center, and I think that would be great if that's true. But yeah, it makes me very proud to see that building and to see it so well used and so well maintained. And the campus looks fabulous. So.
14th President of Ball State University, Joanne Gora. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
We have
Always
more presidents, former presidents, and special guests throughout the night. But for right now, let's send it to a snippet of what we will see in the documentary this evening.
A team of Muncie business leaders, including James Boyce and George McCulloch, offered the Ball brothers free natural gas for 5 years, 3 acres of land, and $5,000 on condition that they establish a factory in Muncie and employ 125 people.
The deal to get them here included free land. It was approximately 7 acres on the southeast side of Muncie. It included access to free natural gas. It included cash and it included a railroad spur so that it was easy for them to ship their product out. It was a sweet deal. They did well.
The 5 Ball brothers, Lucius, William, Edmund, Frank, and George, all eventually moved to Muncie with their families. In time, their manufacturing operations employed thousands of residents and produced millions of fruit jars, becoming a leader in national glass manufacturing.
Ball brothers had built a successful business in their glass manufacturing company, and they wanted to have Muncie be a really great place for manufacturing, for other types of jobs, and also for education.
The Ball brothers matched their economic influence in Muncie with civic, cultural, and nonprofit contributions in a philosophy of beneficence, a family credo that eventually led to the creation of Ball State University. The Ball brothers and their families sought to improve the quality of life in Muncie, Delaware County, and East Central Indiana with charitable contributions. This philanthropic dedication continues to this day.
Their philosophy of philanthropy was dive in, make things better.
As Muncie grew, civic leaders, including members of the Ball family, saw a need to establish an institution of higher education in Muncie, in part to foster growth and innovation in teaching, and also to improve development in Muncie's West Side neighborhoods.
The drive for higher education in Muncie is initially an entrepreneurial business idea. So they want to create this college, which is going to be an incentive for people to come out and build homes and build neighborhoods.
All right, guys, welcome back down here to the red carpet. I'm Olivia Jansen here with first-year grad student and student producer Ashley Mullen. Ashley, can you tell me a little bit about your position in producing this documentary?
Yeah, so I was an assistant producer on the short 5 promos that we filmed, which will be shown before the long documentary. Basically what my role was is I helped contact all the different people that we interviewed, all the extras that are seen in like the different shots, all that talent as basically the people that I got. I helped coordinate locations, when we would shoot things, and a lot of more logistical type of stuff. Yeah.
So how much preparation went into that for the documentary?
Quite a lot more than I think anyone anticipated. We all thought that everything was going to be shot within like a couple weeks, but it was very rigorous in the amount of shooting that we had to do, and a lot of scrambling kind of at the last minute just to try to find people, because we needed so many people for even just like the small shots in the documentary. Yeah.
So what was your favorite part working with the documentary and with the other students and everyone on the staff?
Just meeting a lot of really great people, and I've formed a lot of lifelong friendships and relationships. Yeah, just meeting all the different people and you know, kind of going beyond just the relationships and kind of furthering my career in telecommunications. Yeah.
Awesome. And one more question for you. Are you excited for tonight?
I'm very excited for tonight. This has been over a year in the making, so I'm so excited to finally see it, you know, executed. So.
Well, we're all excited to see it too. Thank you, Ashley. And now we're going to head into a commercial break. Thank you.
Over 100 years ago, at the height of the Indiana gas boom, a spark of beneficence from 5 brothers caused an explosion that transformed a prominent teachers' college into a university that today expands over 700 acres with 22,000 students studying in 190 majors. Today, Ball State University follows a tradition of student-centered education, community engagement, immersive experiences, student involvement, a fostering environment of self-exploration, and an enduring spirit focused on a legacy of academic excellence. Ball State University, teaching entrepreneurial learners, molding impactful leaders. Ball State University.
We want to run the ball, we make no secret about that.
Nobody cares about what you did in high school. You have to show up and put your helmet on and tie your cleats up.
We got high expectations and goals that we want to do, and we're going to put the team on our back.
Down the sideline, Malik Turner all the way for 6. Caleb Huntley still running, hurdles the defender, and goes into the end zone.
Just love being on the field. It's my favorite thing to do in life.
inspiring athletes, creative storytellers, Emmy Award winners. The best stories in Ball State sports, only from SportsLink.
Hashtag Ball State 100, the Centennial celebration here in Muncie. Hard to believe it's been 100 years here at Ball State. We have another special guest with us, Judd Fisher of the Ball Brothers Foundation. With Alex Thomas, I'm Jack Kaiser. Thanks for joining us once again. What excites you most about this celebration going on tonight?
I think it's just 100 years is a testament to how well this university has done through the last century and been able to be a place for student success, a place for careers, a destination for careers for professors, faculty, and administration. And it's just been, I think, a wonderful symbiotic relationship with the city of Muncie that just continues to grow and grow as the city of Muncie transitions from a major manufacturing center to a place that is what I think can be started to be considered a real college town, with Ball State being one of the largest employers, but also the amount of students that go through here every year that are put out into this world that have a great education and have a chance to contribute to this area, the state, and the beyond. So that's really exciting to me to see all that happening and be able to work with the university through a lot of those types of things.
As someone who's been around this university now for almost over 2 decades, in what ways has Ball State changed?
Sure. There's the obvious things, the physical changes from the McKinley, just the corridor there that was developed into such a wonderful place that is more student-friendly, pedestrian-friendly, but it's also great looking. The bell tower, I think those are just one of, or a couple of very simple things, but that's really been great. A lot of the new buildings that have gone up and been modernized and things like that have been really wonderful for bringing people here, the students and all the professors and everything that have come here over the last 2 decades have just had wonderful things to say about the university, the ones I talked to. And so that's been a neat thing to be able to watch.
100 years, that's quite remarkable. How important is the history of Ball State to where it's at right now?
I think you look at it, and Ball State, kind of came out of the failed schools that were here. They were tried before, a couple of them, and you had a town that was building up in around 1918 that was manufacturing heavy, and that was looking for something to enhance the community. So the higher ed aspect was really important, and it really cemented kind of this place to this learning environment that we might not have had if it hadn't been established in 1918. So it's such an incredible thing for the community, the education side of things here in this community, and obviously this is an economic engine. There's a lot of people that work here, so not only are the students being educated and kind of getting a launch into the next aspect of their lives, but this university affects a lot of people in this community from the economic side too. So there's a great relationship there, and I think it's just been wonderful over the years, and it's just getting better.
And with 100 years down, 100 years and beyond to go, what excites you most about the future of this university?
Sure, I think you start seeing as the different regions around our state, around the Midwest, around the country start to coalesce into what is the future going to be. We're still a major manufacturing hub here. I don't know if enough people know that we put out more manufacturing product here in East Central Indiana than we ever have. But we have the least amount of people working there because of innovation, technology, things like that. And so what are we looking at into the future? I think the future is here, especially in Muncie, is education. Our job is to educate people for this region and beyond. We have the School of Medicine here, the IU School of Medicine that Ball State works very closely with. That's so important. Healthcare is a huge thing. So I think those types of things are going to be very prevalent in our future when you look at the education and medical education side of things and really working together. You have the new building across the street here, the Health Sciences building, and I think there's just going to be some great partnerships that come out of that with the state and the Midwest with other organizations and really work towards having some great healthcare workers come out of that from all different levels. So it's really neat.
Ball State, certainly a bright future. Thank you for joining us. Judd Fisher of the Ball State Brothers Foundation. Let's toss it down to Olivia with a guest now on the red carpet.
All right, guys, I'm here with former President Terry King. So can you tell me a little bit about your time at Ball State as the 16th interim president?
Well, it all started when President Gora hired me to be the provost and vice president for academic affairs. And I was in that role for about 9.5 years before I went into the interim president's role. I have to say that whole time was a phenomenal time to be at the university. So many positive changes, so much energy at the university, and it's still going on today.
Yeah, so I understand that you were involved in the creation of the College of Health. Can you tell me a little bit about your role with that, and then just really your role with that, and then what your vision was for it at the time?
It all started when we embarked on a long-range academic planning exercise to try to envision what the university should be like in 30 years. What we did was look backwards in time over the history of the university and saw that certain pivotal things happened. For example, the creation of colleges, College of Fine Arts, the College of Architecture and Planning, the College of Communication, Information and Media. Those changes allowed the university to really grow in those areas. As part of that planning process, we saw that we had a tremendous collection of health-related professions at the university, and the idea was if we put them together and co-locate them in certain ways, that whole area would grow phenomenally. I hope that 30 years from now, people will say that was a really good decision to make. I'm very hopeful that will happen, but I think it'll get very strong.
So what are you most excited to see from that college in the future?
I want to see it grow more professionally. I think there's a number of programs there that are well known around the world. I'd like to see all those programs well known around the world. I think they'll get there.
So are you excited to be here for the documentary tonight, and what are you most excited to see from documentary?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I remember when they started planning the documentary actually about 1.5 years ago, and it was unknown what was going to happen at that time. I think I'm really excited to see how the university has grown over the first 100 years, but also get a glimpse, if you could extrapolate into the future, what it could be like in the next 30 to 100 years.
All right, we're going to hand it back to Jack and Alex with a special guest.
Thank you, Olivia. We are now here with the First Lady of Indiana, Janet Holcomb, Alex Thomas, Jack Kaiser. What's it been like for you so far, the experience of being the First Lady over the last couple of years?
It's been a whirlwind. It's, every day is a new adventure, and we've learned to embrace change, because that has been the one constant in this, is change.
And you grew up here. What is your earliest memory of Ball State in the Muncie area?
My earliest memory of Ball State, probably attending a homecoming parade as a child. Yeah. So yes, I grew up in the Muncie community and attended Burris Laboratory School before completing 2 degrees at Ball State.
Wow.
With you being a Muncie native, how would you describe your connection with this university?
I love staying connected to the university. Forged some really endearing friendships here in the university. Students and faculty that have been mentors and friends throughout my life.
And from growing up here, how has this university changed from just what you can see since you were growing up here?
Well, the physical changes are astounding, but I think the university has grown tremendously too, and has really responded to the needs and challenges of the 21st century.
What has Ball State meant to the state of Indiana over the last 100 years?
I think Ball State has contributed tremendously to the state, in this area of the state in particular. Muncie community and East Central Indiana is just really grounded by the university. So it's such an important key component of this area, and continues to turn out business and community leaders, wonderful teachers, architects, artists, across the board. Just many great programs here at Ball State.
That's fantastic. And what are you looking forward to most about tonight's event?
Just celebrating and seeing some friends and family, and ran into President Mearns already, so it was fun to say hi to him. So it's great to be here, and I look forward to sharing this special occasion.
I'm sure you've been here quite a few times, not your first time here at Ball State. Unfortunately, the rain has sort of dampened the campus a little bit, but it's a beautiful campus we have here. All the students have their favorite spot. What's yours?
Well, I spent a lot of time in the art building. I have 2 degrees in fine arts, and so the art building has migrated since I was in college. But the art museum and the art buildings are always a favorite. So.
All right, First Lady of Indiana, Janet Holcomb. We'll take a quick break. More special guests, more activities here at the Centennial celebration of Ball State coming up next.
The Ball family believed in beneficence, the ethical principle of placing the welfare of humankind above the self. Every day, I see their ceaseless financial support of Ball State University that has fostered a culture of philanthropy that has lasted for an entire century. Today, alumni, the Indiana General Assembly, and private donors join to support Ball State's community that cultivates a student-centered mission, character development, and academic excellence. This year, my university family comes together in celebration of 100 years of academic exploration, immersive learning, life-changing enrichment, and unbreakable bonds. The Centennial allows me to pause and reflect on the values of the people who helped achieve betterment in my university, my community, and in myself, while planning to ensure their students' success in the 21st century.
We want to run the ball, make no secret about that.
Nobody cares about what you did in high school. You have to show up and put your helmet on and tie your cleats up.
We got high expectations and goals that we want to do, and we don't put the team on our back.
Down the sideline, Malik Tunner all the way for 6. Caleb Huntley still running, hurdles the defender, and goes into the end zone.
Just love being on the field. It's my favorite thing to do in life.
Inspiring athletes, creative storytellers, Emmy Award winners. The best stories in Ball State sports, only from SportsLink.
The rain continues to pour, but we're still rolling as we look at the history of Ball State. 100 years, opened in 1899 as a private school before going public in 1918. Ball Teachers College 1922 before the current Ball State University in 1965. Hard to believe it's been 100 years, Alex. A lot of history shown right there.
A lot of history. My family went here. My mom, almost all of her entire side went to Ball State. It's a big part of the Teachers College. I know it's similar for you as well.
Yeah, both my parents went here as well. Lots of Indiana natives come here to Ball State. That's what makes it special. Also a national university gaining national recognition. And while we have the time, let's send it down to Olivia Jansen with another one of our documentary student producers.
All right, guys, I'm here with student producer John Osterhout. He came from Virginia. Can you tell me a little bit about how excited you are to be here and about your trip to Muncie, Indiana today?
I'm really excited to be here because this whole project is over a year in the making. We started pre-production last June, I think, so it's been a long time coming, and I think that the gravity and the historical significance of this project is probably just going to start setting in for our team, because I think this project will have a long, long life and will be used continuously probably for the next 100 years until Ball State's bicentennial. So I'm really excited to see all of the work that the whole team has done and to let all of them be congratulated and for everybody to see what we've been doing for the past year. My drive was fine here, except my car is now in the shop and an engine problem. So that's how much I wanted to be here. That my engine was making a weird noise, but I just kept going. So.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you here, and we're excited to see the documentary. Can you tell me just a little bit about your role in the documentary?
Yeah, sure. I directed the long-form documentary, so the documentary that we're going to see tonight, it's one of 3 parts of the documentary series. There's a hour-long, the full history. It's like the most objective version of Ball State's past. And then there was a 10-minute version that focused a little bit on the past, but then kind of went into highlighting what we do now. And then there was a third section that had 5 what we were calling PSAs, that are 30-second long videos highlighting different aspects of just what's happening on campus right now that altogether kind of encapsulate the spirit of what Ball State was, is, and will be in the future. So, yeah.
Well, I have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
So, what was your process when coming up with all of your, just everything that you needed to get together for the documentary? Where did you start?
Where I started was with going through the history with Chris Fluke, because Chris Fluke is kind of a historian in his own right. So he did a lot of the research, and then he and I kind of got together to compile all of that into a narrative story to kind of go from point A to point B. And what I really wanted to focus on was how the educational traditions that were established at the university's founding have carried through today, and how they've actually impacted what we're doing actually like right now. So like being student-centered was part of the university from the very outset, and that's led to you and I talking right now, a recent graduate, and you're still a student, right? So that's all really cool. And you know, the people operating the cameras, all students, and the lighting, students. And that actually has a really long history that came into being now. And so I think that most students don't really realize that Ball State has always been trying to do this type of thing, and now SportsLink has Emmy Awards, you know, so it's that started 100 years ago. And so tracking the progress of how these ideas kind of formed and changed and progressed to where we are now is actually, the history of Ball State is more profound and interesting than I think a lot of people might expect.
Certainly. So we'll let you get inside so you can enjoy the documentary, and now we're going to send it back over to the set with Alex and Jack.
Thank you, Olivia. We've talked to a couple of former presidents tonight, but how about the current president of Ball State University, Jeffrey Mearns? And it's been 100 years for Ball State, just over a year for you as president. How's the ride been so far?
It's been great. Jennifer and I are so fortunate to be a part of the Ball State community and the greater Muncie, Delaware County. We're very happy to be here.
And with a full year of celebration for the Centennial, this is kind of the trademark event for the year. So how excited are you for tonight's event?
We're very excited. You know, the documentary history that we're going to show tonight is the work of more than 30 of our outstanding students. I've had a chance to preview the documentary. It's outstanding. It really captures not just the history of our university, but it really captures the passion and pride that we all have for Ball State.
And we're seeing changes all over campus right now. In your opinion, how will these changes affect or elevate Ball State University in the future?
Yeah, so we have more than $300 million of construction projects either underway or actually in the development and design pipeline. So we have academic buildings, 2 new academic buildings that are going to be built on our East Quad. One's underway, one will be underway next summer. We got 2 new residence halls in the pipeline, a new dining hall. And one of the things that makes me most excited is the new East Mall, the pedestrian and bike path that we're going to build all the way from the campus recreation center in the north through the center of campus, all the way down to the village. We're going to build a new parking garage over on New York Avenue, which will allow us to tear down the Emmons garage. And once we do, we're going to open that space up to a beautiful green lawn. So we're going to make the campus even more attractive, more walkable, more opportunities for students to engage outside as they're enjoying our beautiful campus.
And a lot of changes, like you just mentioned. How do you think those changes will elevate the university as a whole?
Well, it will enable us to continue to attract outstanding faculty, staff, and students. You know, facilities are important, programs are important, celebrations are important. The most important thing that we all can do, probably my most important job, is to continue to attract outstanding people. The quality of the people is what drives the quality of the institution.
We've asked a couple of guests this tonight. We've talked about all these new areas of campus, but of the current areas on campus, what's your favorite one? What's your go-to area that you like to just walk around or visit?
Well, I walk through the campus several mornings a week, sometimes by myself, oftentimes with my dog. The quad, where the original buildings were built, is to me a place that reminds me of the legacy of the university. And I was on the phone recently with somebody as I was talking about the history of the university, and I mentioned to him that all I had to do was look out my window, and 100 yards to the west is Beneficence. And so I often look to her for inspiration. She's been a guide for us in terms of the values she represents. She's been a guide for us through our proud past, and she'll be a guide to us in our future.
You talked about beneficence and that whole, and the new mantra of "We Fly."
Right.
Is that the entire root behind that idea was beneficence, and that way you were just describing?
So it obviously, the We Fly is both a tie to Beneficence and her wings, but also we're the Cardinals. So that tagline was consistent with the two symbols of the university, but it really expresses the aspiration and trajectory of the institution. We are on the rise. Our transformative educational experience propels students to do outstanding things when they graduate. So it's just a good image for us.
And we know you like your sports, President Mearns.
I do.
A big game coming up for Ball State football this Saturday. Are you excited?
I am. You know, it's been on my bucket list to see a football game at Notre Dame. Never done it in my life. I grew up watching Notre Dame football. I never thought I'd be there as the president of a university that was playing Notre Dame. So this is a dream come true. The only thing we need to do is do some blocking and some tackling, and good things will happen on Saturday. I'm excited.
We'll see if the Cardinals can get it done. Ball State President Jeffrey Mearns right here on the set. But for now, we'll toss it to a tease, another one of tonight's documentary.
I feel like a lot of people don't know how many great things that Ball State offers, and being a Ball State student to me has meant taking advantage of those opportunities and really shaping my own future.
Ball State provides its students with a wonderful opportunity to grow.
Ball State has shaped me to be a person that can be a leader. I'm able to work as a team player with other people around me in my major.
I think Ball State has shaped me in just pushing me out of my comfort zone completely. I'm more confident in my work, and I'm actually proud of the work that I'm doing.
Going to college is the first big, important step in any young man, young woman's life, because it's the first genuine step toward independence. And that's exactly what it was for me. And Ball State provided everything that I needed for that.
2018 marks the 100-year anniversary of Ball State University. From a humble beginning in a single building, Ball State expanded to 731 acres and 109 buildings. Each year, over 22,000 students study in 190 majors and 130 minors.
You see our schedule once again, red carpet arrivals continuing, just about to wrap that up. And the documentary premiere coming up at 7:30. I think everyone's pretty excited, Alex.
Oh, definitely. And then the big party afterwards, 9 o'clock, street party on Riverside, some live music, food trucks, fireworks. We won't let the rain dampen the mood. It's going to be a great time out here at Emmons Auditorium.
I have a good feeling the rain's going to stop. We'll see, though. Should be a lot of fun. Let's send it down to Olivia on the red carpet once again.
Okay, guys, I'm standing here with Amy Fry, a student producer on the documentary. Amy, can you tell me a little bit about your role in producing it?
I actually was a director of photography, so I shot half of it. Yeah, there was 3 of us sharing the workload, so I shot a few of the interviews and a good amount of the B-roll that you'll see tonight. So yeah, spent a lot of hours on set.
So a lot of hours. How much planning went into that?
A lot. Every week, my team would meet 2 or 3 times to plan the next week, and then we'd spend 2 or 3 days on set. So it was like having a part-time job, basically.
Yeah, definitely. So how many people did you work with on a regular basis? I know you said you were one of the 3 or so photographers. How many more people did you work with just on a daily basis working on the documentary?
Well, the total team was 40 people. But my small team that worked together the most often was about, I think it was like 6 of us, and then we spent a lot of time together planning like our part of what we were supposed to shoot.
So this will be your 5th year at Ball State. What does the Centennial mean to you, and how much does Ball State mean to you?
Well, Ball State has given me all the opportunities in the world. Like, I've learned so much from my time here, mostly because of the immersive learning program. The really hands-on experience, like the Centennial. Since this was a class, I got credit for it, but I learned so much more than like what someone taking the normal credit for that class would be.
And then anyone looking into Ball State, what advice would you have for them after you spent 4 years here?
My only advice is really to get involved. You can't just sit in your dorm room. You have to like really find your niche, find your people, and start, like if you're in a creative field, start making things. Just make sure you really put your effort into it. It's all about what you put into it.
Well, we're excited to see the documentary. I'll let you get inside. Thank you for the time. Now we're going to send it to a commercial.
2018 embodies a landmark for students, for faculty, for the community, and for Ball State as a university. A school which began in a single building and expanded to over 100 has fostered an environment of education that has grown to 22,000 students studying in over 190 programs. For 100 years, Ball State University has placed students at the center of every decision. Together, our students and faculty have remained committed to academic excellence, community engagement, outreach and service, research, the arts, and the overall success of Muncie, Indiana, and beyond. The Centennial provides us an opportunity to celebrate the past century while looking forward to the next 100 years for another century of excellence.
We want to run the ball, make no secret about that.
Nobody cares about what you did in high school. You have to show up and put your helmet on and tie your cleats up.
We got high expectations and goals that we want to do, and we don't put the team on our back.
Down the sideline, Malik Tunner all the way for 6. Caleb Huntley still running, hurdles the defender, and goes into the end zone.
Just love being on the field. It's my favorite thing to do in life.
It's been a long time since you've been on my mind. What's a man to do? Spent the whole day thinking about the times I walked away from you.
Inspiring athletes, creative storytellers, Emmy Award winners. The best stories in Ball State sports, only from SportsLink.
Ball State Centennial, we cannot show you this schedule enough. We want to remind you of what's going on here tonight. About 20 minutes away from 7:30 in the documentary premiere, an hour-long documentary highlighting Ball State University's history. And as we said, the party gets started at 9. Riverside, live music, food trucks, and fireworks. We have got it all, and let's send it to Olivia with one more student producer.
Okay, guys, I'm here with Zoe Taylor. She was the director for the documentary. Zoe, can you tell me a little bit about your role?
Yes, so I directed the promotional videos along with the B-roll footage that you'll be seeing in the documentary itself. I partnered with the Bayonet Cinema, which is in Indianapolis. Basically, my goal was to find as many students and diverse students as possible, film them not only for our documentary, but for history as we go forward. That was something that was really in my heart, was to make sure that students who move forward are able to look back in the footage and see what was going on, really what Ball State is today and how we progress in the future.
So you had to look for your students that you interviewed for the documentary. What was your process when you located these students, and how did you decide who you were going to pick?
It was difficult. That was a lot of me sitting with my producers and trying to figure out the diversity that we needed to kind of show in our documentary, from academics to sports, to different people of color, to make sure that everybody who is here at Ball State University has their voice shown, to make sure everybody is exhibited, to really exhibit the things that people might not realize that we do, like our anthropology department, our gymnastics team, we have a rugby team that I showed. So it was really going around and working with my personal experience from student government and the connections I had made there to see the students who had voiced their concerns and really wanted to be heard were actually seen and depicted in this.
So how big of a role did diversity play in this documentary?
Every decision. Every decision I looked to make sure that we had females on the screen, to make sure that we had professors, different age variations, veterans, people with disabilities. That was things that I would stay up at night to make sure that I had that. I didn't want this documentary to only show what people thought Ball State was. I wanted to show what Ball State actually is.
So since diversity played such a major role, is that what you're hoping that people will take away from the documentary the most, or what is your main key component that you want everyone to take away from it?
I think diversity is already at Ball State University. I think the component I really wanted people to see was not the fact of what might be on a college brochure, but what actually is at the heart and core of Ball State University, which just happens to be a variation and beautiful diversity of what we are. So really, it was very easy for me to do it because it was already there. So when I say stressed out about it, it was more like just making sure that people were coming when I needed them to.
So now that this is Ball State's 100th year and you've worked with the documentary, how does that change how you feel about Ball State? Do you feel more strongly and more proud of your university, or what are your feelings going into the Centennial tonight?
After working with all of our amazing students, I probably talk too much about Ball State now to everybody that I work with. There's no other university that does what we do, where students can come and have a conversation with other students that work with thousands of dollars of equipment to put on something that we celebrate at the start of our 100-year anniversary. Something like that at a different university would have been done by professionals outside of the university. It's just the trust that Ball State gives into people that is the largest thing that I can offer people, that when you are trusted as a student, you excel as a person.
All right, well, we'll let you get inside and enjoy tonight's festivities. I'm going to head inside as well upstairs with Mick Tidrow, and now we're going to send it back to a piece of content created for tonight's event.
During the same era, Ball State students became increasingly concerned about social issues in the Vietnam War.
If you flunked out, you were going to Vietnam. And I can remember when I graduated, I lost my student deferment and went down for my pre-induction physical. And it's one of those odd circumstances because millions before you have fulfilled their military obligation, but as you're going through that physical, you're saying to yourself, geez, I hope they find a lump. But they don't find a lump, and so you're reclassified. You lose your student deferment, and I went home, and they just said, all right, we'll call you when it's time to go. And what intervened in my near future, and I think made a difference in my life, because we know going there for millions and millions of men and women made a huge difference in their life, not for the better. The intervention of the lottery system. And I sat there on the couch the night they drew the birth dates to see who was going to be drafted before they ended the draft, and mine was 352nd out of 356. So I was very, very lucky in that sense, because I would not have, if I knew kids in my fraternity who went and didn't come back. I knew everybody has stories like that. They're, for Christ's sake, go to Washington and look at the Vietnam War wall. So I wouldn't have been the same if I came back. So I was very, very lucky there.
Look at those stats for this documentary. You just saw David Letterman. So much work went into this documentary premiering tonight. 41 students, 50 interviews, 100 hours of footage, and over 1,000 historical photos. And this took a while, 7 months. We do a lot of similar work at SportsLink, but on a much smaller scale.
Yeah, only 3-4 minutes. The big ones are around 10 minutes. But to do an hour of this and really tell a full story of over 100 years of information, I mean, it really is. It's impressive, and it's very cool that I think that we are at a university where the students get to be involved in that so much and spend that time and learn kind of on that fly, and that immersive learning that actually President Gore was talking about when we were talking with her.
Students get a lot of great experience here. We've gotten a lot of great experience on SportsLink Digital Radio. It's the new direct-to-consumer radio. You can stream it online, mixler.com/BSU SportsLink. We go to all the sporting events here at Ball State, and we'll be at Notre Dame this Saturday.
Yeah, it's an exciting one coming up on Saturday. As he mentioned, mixler.com/BSU SportsLink. But Jack, I mean, it's a great opportunity. We're less than a year removed from that shocking shot of Taylor Persons at Notre Dame for the basketball team. The Fighting Irish are ranked number 8 again. Could we be in store for another upset? There's potential.
Who knows? Deja vu could be in the works, and I know Ball State's motivated. Just talking to the running backs this week, James Gilbert, Caleb Huntley, they're fired up. The name Notre Dame does not scare them.
No, not at all. This is a confident football team and with a great showing in the first week, and it's also pretty cool for them. I mean, they get to go and experience that really the top stage you can reach in collegiate Division I football. It's going to be an exciting weekend and a great opportunity for Ball State to really show themselves.
I think everybody's watched Rudy at some point. Not saying Ball State gets to live that out for real, but they're going to watch Rudy on the way up there, and they're going to have a great time up at Notre Dame Stadium and hopefully come away with a win. But once again, SL Digital, we have more than just football. We'll have basketball later on this year. We have volleyball. We have field hockey. We have soccer going on right now. Just a great opportunity for all of our students to get involved. And there's opportunities everywhere for students to get involved in all majors throughout Ball State. Just an opportunity or a university that prides itself on giving real-world experience to its students.
It's very unique. There's over 22,000 students at Ball State, and we're very blessed to have so many different majors and minors and opportunities for students. And then the 93% career placement rate. I mean, that's really impressive, and that was definitely for me a major selling point of coming to this university and why I wanted to be a Cardinal here at Ball State. And it's just full of great programs that anyone can find what they want to do.
That's exactly why I came here too. This university boasts more real-world experience than any other that I could find, and it's convenient that it's an hour away from home. Just a great university for me and a great university for everyone over 100 years. We have one more look at the documentary before it premieres at 7:30. Take a look here.
New construction matched with renovations of older structures, modernizing them for the next century, including a renovation of West Quad and the Fine Arts Building, Schumann Stadium, and several residence halls.
The growth of the campus is so impressive to me, and I believe, and I don't want to diminish the input of others, but I believe President Gora was largely responsible for the physical change that it underwent and the much higher profile it has now than when I was a student. So you see this burgeoning center of education, and you can't help but want to be a part of it.
Improvements were made to landscaping throughout the campus, and the entire length of McKinley Avenue was modified in the first half of the decade. Arguably the biggest construction undertaking is the geothermal energy system.
When it was completed, it was the largest closed-loop geothermal project in the country. It enabled us to provide heating and cooling to more than 46 campus buildings. It enabled us to save $2 million annually in operating funds and to cut our carbon footprint in one half.
We are minutes away from the documentary premiere. We've been talking about it all night, and it's almost here. 7:30 p.m. is when it starts to roll, and then 9 p.m. the party starts as well. And that tease, you saw a lot of shots of campus. There's been a lot of changes over the years here to Ball State. We've even experienced some changes that will take place after we're gone.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the famed La Follette Residence Hall, part of it has been torn down. I mean, that's a hall that my mom stayed in 30 plus years ago. I mean, it's really incredible, not to mention just across the street, the new Health Professions building. It's amazing how we went away in the spring and came back in the fall, students, and it really had gone up and improved, and you can see kind of it taking shape. It's very cool and a lot of movement, as President Mearns was talking about. A lot of changes coming to campus, but they seem to all be positive in my eyes.
Yeah, a lot of the residence halls were getting a little bit old, so they've updated them. Both Johnson halls on the north side of campus updated now. Great facilities. A lot of the residence halls are moving to the north side of campus. That's where you see the construction, but in a few years, it's going to look fantastic.
And that's a commendation to President Mearns. I mean, he really came in with a plan, and we saw it very quickly. The whole changing of the brand and bringing in We Fly and then announcing these changes to really elevate the university. And Ball State really is, it's a university on the rise, both in the classroom, on the field, and as a student body.
Ball State's getting its name out there in the state of Indiana and across the entire nation. Great university celebrating 100 years tonight. We've talked about some of the new things on campus, Alex, but what's your favorite traditional spot? We've asked that all night. What's yours?
That's a tough one. I think Frog Baby is tough to beat. Just
yeah,
if you catch Frog Baby at the right time in the evening, it really is. It's beautiful to look around, and really just campus takes shape in the fall, and some of the colors that come to campus, really, I mean, it takes you to a new area. And it's one of fall to me in Indiana is what Indiana provides and what makes it unique. People say that out west is so hilly and they like the plains and that kind of thing, but here you get that color, that vibrant color, and it really elevates campus. What about you, though?
Well, I went out to the East Coast. I'll start with a little story.
Okay.
I went out to the East Coast a couple of summers ago to New York City, to Boston. Great cities, but it doesn't beat the Midwest. There is just a spacious feel to the Midwest and a homey feel that you just can't beat. And I find the same thing right here at Ball State. So, I mean, it's so hard to decide.
It really
I mean,
is.
Frog Baby is great. Beneficence is great. The quad is great. Of course, the athletic facilities are fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Beneficence and the quad. That area is just very peaceful to me. I don't have a ton of classes down there. I'm in the Letterman building a lot, but when I do find my way down there, I just like to soak it in. There's a lot of trees. There's a lot of green space. And I just like to take it all in and soak up the atmosphere that Ball State provides.
And that green space in the North Quad that you were talking about really elevates, but that is like kind of the main place for green space on campus, you know. So that's one of the things President Mearns was talking about, and tearing down some of the parking garages to build no more green space. It's phenomenal. I mean, it really it helps the students, and I think also I see the bell tower every day coming out of Letterman, so I think that's why the quad might be a little bit more important too. It's just you're not there as much, so you get to soak in that beauty.
Absolutely. When you don't see it that much, you appreciate it that much more. Schaefer Tower, Bell Tower, that's always a staple of campus. I like to look at that a lot, just sort of stand under it and be like, wow, this is pretty big.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ball State's campus has really made a lot of advancements over the year. Let's take one last look at the history of Ball State. I mean, it started in the 1800s. That's hard to believe. 1899. It was a private school then, but then it goes public. Indiana State Normal School went through a couple of name changes. Even the mascot changed, Alex. They used to be called the Hoosier Runes for their athletics mascot. They're now the Cardinals, but it's hard to believe that we've experienced so much change in 100 years.
Yeah, and we were in Coach New's office doing some interviews for Running Backs U, the new show from Ball State Sports Link, and he showed us a hat that said Ball State Hoosier Runes. It said that a fan had given it to him. It was one of 10 in existence, and it was so cool, and it's just so unique how far this university has come in just 100 years.
Absolutely unbelievable. Everything that this university provides, this entire celebration, just so much fun to be a part of it. For Alex Thomas, I'm Jack Kaiser. I mean, it's been a fun one. What are your final thoughts before we send it over to Mick and Olivia?
It's been exciting. This is a great celebration. Excited to be here. A beautiful documentary we're excited to see, and hopefully a lively party later tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a big party here tonight. Lots going on. We take one last look at the schedule. Documentary premiere, street parties starting at night. It's been a fun one, but for now, we send it in to Mick and Olivia to wrap it up from inside Emmons Auditorium.
Thank you, Jack and Alex. A special time on the red carpet out there before the documentary airs. We're back inside Emmons Auditorium, and Olivia, this place is bumping right now. So many people have filed in now off that red carpet.
Yeah, Mick, despite the weather, there's an awesome turnout below us here in Emmons Auditorium, and I got to talk to a lot of exciting people down on the red carpet, and they had a lot to say about their excitement, so that just makes me, and I'm sure you, even more excited to see what the documentary has in store tonight.
Well, the lights go off, so we're about to get ready here inside Emmons Auditorium, but the rain couldn't hold everybody off. Everybody's still filed in. So many past important people coming through the doors, former presidents, current President Mearns having the stage coming up here in a couple minutes, but such an important time here with the Centennial event.
Yeah, definitely. I got to talk to past President King, and he had a lot to say about how excited he is just for the future of Ball State and how many changes he has seen since his time here as interim president.
Well, Olivia, a lot of changes, like you mentioned. We mentioned the We Fly at the top of the broadcast and how that's really started to revolutionize with the Centennial event, but there have been so many different immersive programs that have been able to help this campus.
Yeah, I mean, SportsLink, we get so much hands-on action, and we even worked the brand relaunch last year, like I said earlier in the beginning of the broadcast, and that was just an awesome experience to see how much it's changed since November of last year to now.
And just looking at all the different production pieces that even worked in this documentary, you talked to a couple of the producers and the students who had a chance to work on this documentary. Over 40 of them had the chance to put their hand into this. What were some of the best comments outside of that?
You know, most of them had the same thing to say, that it was just an awesome experience to get all that hands-on as a student at a university. So I think that that's one thing that Ball State really does well, is all those immersive programs. You really do get your hands in and you get that first-on experience. And I think that that's really important, and that's really what the new brand and what President Mearns is trying to push here at Ball State.
Pretty impressive. John Ostrow, all the way from Virginia, had car trouble, still made it to the event here tonight for the Centennial event to see the unveiling of this documentary. Olivia, with so many people talking about the documentary, what was the experience like just talking to some of the people who have helped make this piece really move?
You know, I think it just shows their excitement. Like Josh, he had car troubles on his way here, but he still wanted to be here so bad that he made it. And I think that just the environment out there, everyone is so excited. They're all hugging each other. They haven't seen each other in a while. They've been away from campus, but they really had just a family working together on that documentary, and I think that that's also a really important part of the documentary, is pushing that family feel that Ball State has.
So over 40 students had their hand in this. Instructor Chris Fluke helped facilitating all the action throughout the course of the documentary. Olivia, just a couple seconds before we send it over to President Mearns, what are your final thoughts to wrap things up here inside Emmons?
I'm really excited to see this documentary, just the way that everyone that I had a chance to talk to on the red carpet talked about it and explained it to me. It just seems like it's going to be really big, and it's going to be something that Ball State uses for the next 100 or so years, and maybe even for the bicentennial, we'll see it again.
So President Mearns having a chance to take the stage coming up, the Centennial event right here inside Emmons Auditorium. 100 years of history right here at Ball State.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 17th president of Ball State University, Jeffrey Mearns.
Thank you and good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's special celebration, and it is a privilege. It is a privilege to serve as the president of Ball State University. It's a privilege because for 100 years, we have transformed the lives of more than 200,000 women and men who have earned a degree from our university. Tonight, on this special occasion, I will speak very briefly about the history of this institution, because you will hear much more about our distinctive history in the documentary that we will enjoy this evening. I will also briefly talk about how our university's enduring values have guided us through our proud past, and that they will continue to be a source of inspiration for our bright future. But first, I want to begin by expressing my appreciation to all of the members of our Board of Trustees. 7 of the 9 members of the board are here with us this evening. The Chair, Rick Hall, Vice Chair, Renee Conley, Tom Bracken, Wayne Estopanol, Jean Ann Harcourt, Brian Gallagher, and Marley Jaycox, who serves as our student trustee. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in expressing our appreciation to our trustees. We also have a few special guests, including Trustee Emeritus Hollis Hughes. Please join me in welcoming Hollis back to our campus. And I must also acknowledge 3 of our past presidents who are here with us this evening. Dr. Terry King was appointed to serve as an interim president at a critical time in the history of our university. We are all grateful to Terry, and I am grateful for the personal support he gave me during my transition as president. Terry, thank you for your service, and thank you for your support. And seated right down the row from Terry is Dr. Joanne Gora. Joanne, welcome back to Ball State. Joanne was our 14th president, and during the decade that she served as our president, Joanne was a champion of immersive learning, and she helped launch the development of our geothermal system, the largest of its kind in the country. Joanne, thank you for your service. Thank you for being with us tonight. Welcome home. And seated between Terry and Joanne is Dr. John Worthen. John was Ball State's, yes? John was Ball State's 11th president. He served for a remarkable 16 years. During his tenure, he oversaw the successful completion of the university's first capital campaign. He strengthened our reputation as an outstanding teaching university, and he helped Ball State become nationally recognized for our use of technology to enhance learning. John, thank you for your outstanding leadership, and thank you for your friendship. I am inspired by each of these educators, these leaders. They were passionately committed to our university. The Ball State community was fortunate to have their guidance in its first 100 years. Individually and collectively, they played an important role in helping this institution evolve into the premier public university that we are today. We're also very fortunate to have First Lady Janet Holcomb in attendance. Now, some of you know that Janet is an alumna. She earned both her bachelor's degree and her master's degree in fine arts from Ball State. She has regularly and publicly praised our university for empowering her with a passion and a purpose for the arts and for serving others. Please join me in welcoming First Lady Janet Holcomb to the stage to read Governor Holcomb's proclamation honoring our Centennial celebration.
Chirp. Had to get that out of the way. To all to whom these presents may come, greetings. Whereas through the generosity of the Ball brothers, land was donated to the state of Indiana to create an institution of higher education in Muncie. And whereas, to honor the Ball brothers, the Indiana General Assembly changed the institution's name to Ball State Teachers College in 1929 and began it, because of its growth, to Ball State University in 1965. And whereas Ball State serves more than 22,500 students and provides more than 190 undergraduate majors, many nationally ranked, and whereas the Ball State community is committed to living the Beneficence Pledge, which includes respect for the intrinsic worth of every member of the community. And whereas Ball State has spent a century helping to propel students to successful careers and meaningful lives, and looks forward to continuing to help take the state of Indiana to the next level. And whereas for 100 years, Ball State graduates have made lasting contributions in Indiana and around the world, and are leaders in their professions and communities. Now, therefore, I, Eric J. Holcomb, Governor of the state of Indiana, do hereby proclaim September 6, 2018, as Ball State University Centennial Celebration. From its humble beginnings in 1918, Ball State has grown to reflect the educational needs of the 21st century. I attended Burris Laboratory School before completing my 2 degrees at Ball State. I have fond memories of many years on campus. I forged enduring friendships with fellow students and faculty. Maybe one of my favorite memories was of the Sweet 16 victory in 1990. The energy on campus was unforgettable. In my current role, I appreciate the university for its contributions to Muncie and Central Indiana. Ball State anchors this community, and I cannot imagine Muncie without it. Ball State plays a major role in the economy of East Central Indiana and helping prepare leaders of the future. Happy Centennial, Ball State University, and here's to the next 100 years.
Thank you, Janet. So as you know, and as you just heard, tonight's celebration is an opportunity for our campus community to recognize how, for a century, Ball State University has prepared students to have successful careers and inspired them to lead meaningful lives. And in a few moments, we're about to watch a documentary that captures the historic impact Ball State has had through the dedication of our faculty, our staff, our students, our alumni, and our friends. The impact is what we wanted to capture with the launch last year of a more visible, a more vocal campaign to tell the world about Ball State University. And as a part of that effort, last November, we gathered in Sursa Hall, where I invited a senior cabaret class to perform a song that they wrote, a song that captures the passion and pride of our university. Their lyrics communicate a few key aspects of our fundamental mission. The lyrics remind us that our faculty, our staff, and our students, they're given the freedom and the flexibility to collaborate as learning partners. Their words demonstrate that we provide a transformative educational experience for all of our students. And their lyrics prove that our history and our future are guided by our sustained commitment to the enduring values represented by beneficence, whom our students affectionately refer to as Benny. This evening, our senior cabaret students will again perform this song, and our students will be joined by students from the Muncie Community Schools. Because as you know, as I shared in my convocation remarks a few weeks ago, Ball State has a long-term and abiding interest in the future of Muncie. Our latest partnership with MCS is an extension of our mission, and it's a reflection of our continuing commitment to the community that we serve. Tonight's performance is another example of the strength of that partnership, so please welcome our cabaret students and students from Westview Elementary School.
I came to learn, to grow, to conquer, to thrive. I came to teach, to surprise, to prosper, to rise, to fly, to fly.
Goodbye.
How about our wonderful students and those great students from Westview Elementary? So as we heard in the First Lady's proclamation, and as we know, our university began with the dream of 5 industrious brothers who wanted to create a college right here in Muncie. But their aspirations weren't the first attempt to bring higher education to our city. In fact, as you know, there were 4 prior efforts to start a college or a university here. The Eastern Normal School in 1899, Palmer University in 1902, the Indiana Normal School and College of Applied Technology in 1905, and the Muncie Normal Institute in 1912. All 4 of these initial attempts failed. But these unsuccessful efforts were not total failures. To the contrary, these unsuccessful efforts demonstrated some important positive attributes about our predecessors and about our community. Our founders were innovative and creative. They embraced risks and they were courageous. They were persistent and tenacious. And most importantly, they had the audacity to dream bold dreams. Those previous attempts to start a college in Muncie did not deter the Ball brothers. They were temporary setbacks that they were determined to overcome. And as we celebrate our 100th anniversary, we share our pride in our founders' achievements. As a result of their vision and as a result of their generosity, we are here tonight, gathered as a university, gathered as a community to kick off the year-long celebration of our centennial. It is no doubt a momentous time in the history of our university and our community, a time during which we recognize how our university has served Muncie and East Central Indiana and the state of Indiana and our world. It is a time for us to honor the accomplishments of our faculty, our staff, our students, and our alumni. And it is an opportunity for us to celebrate what I believe is perhaps the most important attribute of our university, one that has been a constant throughout our institution's history. This public university proudly proclaims its commitment to certain enduring values, to excellence, integrity, social responsibility, respect for all people, and gratitude. Beneficence, the iconic statue of our university, she symbolizes these values. She was completed in 1937 during an era when many Americans were extremely poor. Yet in the midst of the Great Depression, the citizens of Muncie donated $450,000 to commission beneficence. And then our friends and our neighbors, they chose to install her right here on our campus. Now, many things have changed in the first 100 years of our university, but what remains a constant is our history of gratitude. A history personified in this beautiful symbol of our past, a symbol that will guide us into the future. A century ago, it was the generosity of the Ball brothers who provided the land for this institution. But it was the generosity of the people of Muncie that sustained and grew their vision to bring higher education to East Central Indiana. I am grateful for their efforts. And in the months to come, I look forward to embracing our centennial events, projects, and activities with an abiding sense of gratitude for the women and men who founded this institution and for the people who have transformed it into the outstanding university that we have now inherited. We are about to enjoy the premiere of one of those projects, our student-produced centennial documentary. It's called From Normal to Extraordinary, Ball State's First Century. I want to thank first the John W. Anderson Foundation for providing the funding for this documentary. I'm also grateful to Professor Jim Reinhardt for composing the music for the film and to the Ball State Symphony Orchestra for providing the live accompaniment tonight. I also want to thank Chris Fluke from the Department of Telecommunications. He brought a fan club. I want to thank Chris, who wrote the script along with the students, and for serving as the faculty advisor to this project. And most importantly, I want to thank the students, more than 30 students who are responsible for every aspect of the film that we are about to see tonight. A project of this size and scope requires a lot of talent and a lot of skill, and it requires thousands of hours of hard work. Now, some universities would hire a company, a private company, to do this work, but at Ball State, we entrust these critical responsibilities to our students. What makes a Ball State immersive learning experience like this one so valuable is that it is a real-world experience that is comparable to those that await our students once they graduate. Jacob Cannon, a senior who assisted with camera work on the documentary, described this project as, quote, a valuable sink or swim kind of learning experience. And in the words of Jacob's instructor, Chris Fluke, here's what Chris said: the students aren't play acting or experimenting with what it is to be a professional who is working on the set of a documentary. They are doing it. The challenges they face are real, and the challenges are unplanned, and the students have to devise solutions to those problems and figure it out. My role was to get them gear, get them resources, and then get the heck out of the way. You know, every day I am proud to serve as the president of Ball State University. But on nights like this one, when I witness the extraordinary impact of our university, I am most proud and most grateful to serve as the president of Ball State University. And it is my distinct honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce From Normal to Extraordinary, Ball State's first century.
I feel like a lot of people don't know how many great things that Ball State offers, and being a Ball State student to me has meant taking advantage of those opportunities and really shaping my own future.
Ball State provides its students with a wonderful opportunity to grow.
Ball State has shaped me to be a person that can be a leader. I'm able to work as a team player with other people around me in my major.
I think Ball State has shaped me in just pushing me out of my comfort zone completely. I'm more confident in my work, and I'm actually proud of the work that I'm doing.
Going to college is the first big, important step in any young man, young woman's life, because it's the first genuine step toward independence. And that's exactly what it was for me. And Ball State provided everything that I needed for that.
2018 marks the 100-year anniversary of Ball State University. From a humble beginning in a single building, Ball State expanded to 731 acres and 109 buildings. Each year, over 22,000 students study in 190 majors and 130 minors. Our humble origins begin during the late Victorian era at the height of an East Central Indiana gas and oil boom. Initially created to provide instruction in primary and secondary education, early curriculum sought to prepare Indiana's residents for the classroom, training a new generation of teachers in the state of Indiana. Before the Ball families purchased the school and donated it to the state of Indiana in 1918, the school had its roots in a one-building private facility, which was initially founded in 1899. In time, we evolved to a teachers' college in the 1920s centered on the old quad. Throughout the 20th century, Ball State evolved from a regional school committed to training teachers for the classroom to an institution that prepared students for the next century. Today, Ball State remains committed to educating students in many professional, scholarly, and academic disciplines. The hallmark of Ball State's curriculum rests upon innovative education, engaging students within the broader community of Indiana while always progressing toward a brighter future in the years to come.
What's exciting to me about the Centennial is it really gives us an opportunity to do two things simultaneously. One is to celebrate our past achievements, and I think it's important during this Centennial to celebrate the contributions of so many women and men who have made this a very special and distinctive university. But it also gives us a chance to reflect and to prepare for what the next century will bring.
While we celebrate our 100th anniversary in 2018, our university's roots actually began in 1899 during a gas and oil boom in Indiana. This boom transformed East Central Indiana from an agricultural backwater to a regional capital of the Second Industrial Revolution.
The discovery of natural gas in eastern Indiana and in the region immediately surrounding Muncie really almost transformed the city overnight. It was a dramatic shift. The access to essentially free or very cheap fuel attracted businesses to the area. It made it a very desirable place to set up a manufacturing operation because of this access to cheap gas. And it drew not only investors and businessmen, but it also drew large numbers of workers.
Many companies migrated to East Central Indiana, taking advantage of the newfound energy resource. Muncie's civic and business boosters actively sought out manufacturers for relocation. One of the largest companies to move to Muncie was the Ball Brothers Glass Manufacturing Company of Buffalo, New York. A team of Muncie business leaders, including James Boyce and George McCulloch, offered the Ball Brothers free natural gas for 5 years, 3 acres of land, and $5,000 on condition that they establish a factory in Muncie and employ 125 people.
The deal to get them here included free land. It was approximately 7 acres on the southeast side of Muncie. It included access to free natural gas. It included cash, and it included a railroad spur so that it was easy for them to ship their product out. It was a sweet deal. They did well.
The 5 Ball brothers, Lucius, William, Edmund, Frank, and George, all eventually moved to Muncie with their families. In time, their manufacturing operations employed thousands of residents and produced millions of fruit jars, becoming a leader in national glass manufacturing.
Ball Brothers had built a successful business in their glass manufacturing company, and they wanted to have Muncie be a really great place for manufacturing, for other types of jobs, and also for education.
The Ball brothers matched their economic influence in Muncie with civic, cultural, and nonprofit contributions in a philosophy of beneficence, a family credo that eventually led to the creation of Ball State University. The Ball brothers and their families sought to improve the quality of life in Muncie, Delaware County, and East Central Indiana with charitable contributions. This philanthropic dedication continues to this day.
Their philosophy of philanthropy was dive in, make things better.
As Muncie grew, civic leaders, including members of the Ball family, saw a need to establish an institution of higher education in Muncie, in part to foster growth and innovation in teaching, and also to improve development in Muncie's West Side neighborhoods.
The drive for higher education in Muncie is initially an entrepreneurial business idea. So they want to create this college, which is going to be an incentive for people to come out and build homes and build neighborhoods.
Frank and Edmund Ball especially saw the need to provide advanced education in East Central Indiana. 3 Muncie businessmen led the charge to establish a college. George Higman, a teacher and real estate developer, Frank Haimbaugh, a publisher, and George McCulloch, a publisher and streetcar industrialist. The 3 entrepreneurs worked together to establish a normal school, an institution designed to train teachers for elementary education. They were called normal after the French system of École Normale. In 1896, the 3 established the Eastern Indiana Normal University Association and began raising money for a facility in the new West Side Addition northwest of Muncie.
The people of Muncie were very determined to have a higher education institution in their community. The city transformed during the late 19th century and really emerged as an urban place as opposed to a small farming town, essentially, and county seat. And so it had increasingly grand ambitions. It had ambitions of being a significant urban center, a significant community, both in terms of size and also in terms of its cultural character.
Construction began in 1898 for the Eastern Indiana Normal University building and was completed by August of 1899. Over the next 19 years, several private institutions, all precursors to Ball State, operated out of a single building in what would later become the Frank Bracken Administration Building. However, none of these early precursors lasted long. The Eastern Indiana Normal University closed in 1901 as both funding and students were lacking. In 1902, the New York philanthropist Francis Palmer offered a $100,000 endowment donation on condition that Muncie matched the fund. The school, the second precursor to Ball State, reopened as Palmer University in 1902. However, the money never materialized and Francis Palmer died that November. Palmer University, like Eastern Indiana Normal, closed in 1904. In 1905, the school reopened as the Indiana Normal School and College of Applied Science under the direction of Francis Engler and James McCormick. This third iteration closed as well in 1907. Muncie stakeholders, including the Ball families, began lobbying the Indiana General Assembly to take over the school and operate it as a public college. These efforts floundered and the building sat empty until 1912, when a fourth institution went into operation under Michael Kelly. Kelly purchased the Marion Normal and Business College from Marion, Indiana, the National Manual Training Corporation, and the Muncie Conservatory of Music in 1911. He renamed the new school the Muncie Normal Institute. Kelly's acquisitions left this school bankrupt almost at the outset. After a sizable donation from a Chicago philanthropist, the school was reorganized as Muncie National Institute in 1915. Like its predecessors, the Muncie National Institute closed in 1917 due to a lack of consistent funding and students. The failure of this last iteration prompted direct involvement from the Ball families.
The Ball brothers ended up getting the property. The family tried to give the property to the state to take over as a college, and the state did not want it. So they put together some incentives. There was $1 million in cash plus the property that they had bid on and successfully acquired. That eventually got the state's attention.
Frank and Edmund worked out a deal with the state of Indiana to donate the facility for use as a branch campus of the Indiana State Normal School in Terre Haute. After some initial reluctance, the trustees at Indiana State agreed, and the Eastern Division of the Indiana State Normal School began operation in spring 1918. After 4 unsuccessful early iterations, Muncie finally had an institution of higher education, and the history of Ball State began.
This was not just a question of educational access, it was also a question of equity. East Central Indiana, or Central Indiana, however you want to geographically look at it, had every right to expect that the state would invest in higher education here, just as it had in other places.
During the 1920s, the Eastern Division initiated many of the academic programs and institutional elements that became hallmarks of the school throughout the 20th century.
Here's where Ball State really had to make it. It had to make it as a branch campus, but it still had to establish a footing that would enable it to survive into the 30s. Nobody knew the Depression was coming, for example.
The school's first 2 presidents, William Parsons and Linnaeus Hines, operated out of the main campus in Terre Haute. Classes began in June of 1918 with an enrollment of about 400 students. The Eastern Division's first term commenced in the summer of 1918. President Parsons moved several faculty from the Terre Haute campus to Muncie.
And one of the things that really helped was, unfortunately, for a lot of things, World War I. The state normal school enrollment had dropped significantly. All the men were drafted. This looked like it was going to be a long war. It had already been 4 or 5 years, and in 1918 could drag on forever. And so they viewed it as a place they could temporarily store some faculty. They had a lot of faculty, but they could move them to Muncie to teach, thinking this probably would not gain much foothold in that time. And as soon as this was over, they could move them back to the main campus, and whatever happens, happened.
In keeping with the original mission of teacher preparation and education, the Eastern Division offered educational programs in pedagogy, the arts, science, teaching licensing, and public school licensing. Tuition was $7.50 per semester, which is about $125 today.
We had the large push from Muncie, from the Ball brothers and others, to create an institution of higher education here. And the thought would be that if we wanted this to become eventually a major institution, a lot of things had to happen.
In that first year, the Eastern Division worked to establish not only the school's credibility as an institution of higher education, but also as a financially viable operation. However, with the onset of the Spanish flu in 1918, enrollment dropped significantly that fall to 160 students.
Well, we opened in 1918, I guess, with about 340 students that first June. By mid-year, it dropped in half, and then it went back up.
In the fall semester of 1919, enrollment increased to almost 500 students. Parsons aggressively hired faculty to match the expanding student population. The Eastern Division's first class graduated at a June 13, 1919 commencement. The first speakers included Dr. S.L. Burr, Jacob Sherman, the president of Cornell University, Indiana's governor, James P. Goodrich, and Frank Ball. To honor the contributions of the Ball family, school officials presented a plaque memorializing the brothers' assistance in bringing the school to life.
They, the Ball brothers, understood at the very outset that strong people make strong families, and strong families make strong communities, and strong communities make strong companies. And they got that from day one, and they were people-purposed.
President Parsons retired in 1921, passing administration of both campuses to Linnaeus Hines. Hines, along with Frank Ball, began seeking funds to construct a science building.
So in kind of rapid order, the leadership of Indiana State manages to acquire funding for what is now the Burkhart Building, but it was originally Science Hall, so now you have a classroom building. But then what comes on is Ball Gym, and that's huge, because now you don't just have a facility for training gym teachers, but now you can have an athletic program. An athletic program means publicity. People are going to pay attention. So then comes the Library and Assembly Hall, which is now North Quad. But then about the same time also comes Lucina Hall, the Women's Residence Hall, named after the Ball brothers' oldest sister, Lucina. And that also is almost equally huge, because now the school can say to its prospective students, especially if they're female, it's Women's Residence Hall, come here, it's safe. It's not just the acquisition of the property, it's also the building of Lucina Hall and Ball Gym that by the end of the 20s gives Ball State the facilities really that's when the quad takes shape.
The Eastern Division's enrollment substantially grew during these early years, from over 400 students in the fall of 1921 to almost 1,000 in the fall of 1925. In 1922, the Board of Trustees at Terre Haute renamed the Eastern Division as Ball Teachers College, Eastern Division, Indiana State Normal School, to reflect the importance of the Ball family at the satellite campus.
The Ball brothers partnered with the state, which kind of merged the interests of the state and the family, and I think that gave it, quite honestly, longevity. The family's interest continued because certain members of the family continued to live here, and as time went on, realized what an important investment Ball State was to the future of Muncie.
One of the Eastern Division's most prominent faculty members at the time, Lemuel Pittenger, persuaded the General Assembly to change the name. Pittenger was also instrumental in separating Ball Teachers College funding from the Indiana State Normal School in Terre Haute. After successfully being elected to the Indiana General Assembly, Pittenger worked to provide direct funding from the legislature to Ball Teachers College, although administrative ties remained in place with the parent campus at Terre Haute.
I tell my students this is how it happened. Grab your desk, you're about ready to have a nervous breakdown, I understand, with the realization that Ball State at one time started out as part of Indiana State, but you're all college students and you can handle it.
By 1924, Pittenger was successful, and the Ball Teachers College Eastern Division received funding directly from the state. Benjamin Burris served as the first president. Burris died suddenly in 1927, and the trustees in Terre Haute named Lemuel Pittenger as president of Ball Teachers College. Pittenger served as president until the Second World War and helped to establish Ball Teachers College as an independent, regional institution for education. In 1928, Pittenger sought to separate the Muncie campus from Terre Haute completely, turning to a local attorney to write House Bill 187, known as the Separation Bill. In late spring of '29, the General Assembly approved of HB 187, separating the Muncie and Terre Haute campuses. The Terre Haute campus was renamed Indiana State Teachers College, and the Muncie campus became Ball State Teachers College, although the Indiana State Teachers College Board of Trustees governed both schools until 1961.
One thing that happened, the family had to give up here as far as the Ball family and the Muncie community people, was that this would not be independent. We would be under what was then the Indiana Normal School Board, their Board of Trustees, and we would be under their president as a campus, and they would call us a branch campus. Then we eventually became the Eastern Division, and then eventually they changed us in 21 to what was then Ball Teachers College, Eastern Division, Indiana State Normal School. Then in 1929 finally released us totally as Ball State Teachers College in recognition of the family. However, we still had the same Board of Trustees.
By the end of the decade, Ball State Teachers College emerged as an independent institution, established to train teachers in primary and secondary education. By 1930, enrollment increased to 1,000 students, with an additional 1,000 students enrolled in extension programs. Ball State also created the Burris Laboratory School in 1929, which served as a teacher training facility for the students at Ball State. In 1930, Ball State became accredited by the North Central Board of Review, rendering the college a fully independent, accredited regional school for teacher training. From the Great Depression through the Second World War and on to the post-war boom, Ball State Teachers College transformed significantly by enrolling more students and offering new programs. The Depression forced Ball State into economic hardship, which turned into severe budget cuts. Ball State operated with a $686,000 budget in 1929. By 1936, the budget had reduced to just over $500,000.
Hard times come in the 1930s, depressions, slashes the appropriation, faculty salaries need to be cut, expenses need to be watched very carefully. But still, by comparison with what you had in 1920, which was one building and a bunch of, fields, now you can say, aha, there's the campus.
Ball State continued to serve as a regional campus during the 1930s, attracting students from all over East Central Indiana who wished to become teachers. Enrollment kept steady at about 1,200 students throughout the decade. In the early 30s, Ball State operated with 12 departments, including education, industrial arts, art, commerce, English, physical education, science, home economics, mathematics, foreign language, library science, and social science.
A nursing program is started in the 1930s, which complements the teachers program. That raised a few eyebrows. What's a teachers college doing with a nursing school or a nursing department? But really what it came down to was a bit of this, shall we say, entrepreneurial tradition that marked Ball State from the beginning. Why should we not have a program for nurses when the hospital's right across the street?
Despite the Depression, Ball State added the Arts Building in 1935. It cost $450,000 in construction. Funding came from the Indiana General Assembly, the federal government, and Frank Ball. Sitting at the north end of the quad, the Arts Building Terrace has served as a location for spring commencement since the 1930s. In 1938, with funding from Frank Ball, Ball State Teachers College opened Elliott Hall on the south end of campus. Serving as the first men's dormitory at Ball State, Elliott was named in honor of Frank Elliott Ball, son of Frank Clayton Ball, who died in a plane crash in 1936.
Elliott Hall at Ball State was built as a memorial to Frank Elliott. Frank Elliott had graduated from Princeton. The story goes that the design of Elliott Hall was based on designs of some of the dormitories at Princeton University. And if you look at pictures, you can see the resemblance.
The Frank and Edmund Ball families had consistently supported the college in the early decades, but also many other institutions in the city of Muncie. To honor the family's contributions and community investment, the Muncie Chamber of Commerce commissioned the beneficence statue from the renowned sculptor Daniel Chester French. French created several statues around the United States, including President Lincoln at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C.
But he was retired. He was contacted about creating this statue. He didn't need this work. But what happened next then was that a coalition of the townspeople went out to his studio in New York City and told Mr. French the story of the Ball brothers and how they came here and built the business and gave much of the money back, invested it into the community in various ways. Ball State was only one. Part of that story must have resonated with Mr. French because he was persuaded.
Remarkably, the citizens of Muncie raised the funds to build the statue during the hardest years of the Great Depression. Officially dedicated in September of 1937, beneficence honored the Ball family's dedication to the community, residents, and institutions of Muncie. Although designed as a monument by the city of Muncie, the proximity to campus allowed beneficence to become an icon for Ball State, eventually serving as the logo.
The Ball family has always believed in hard work, teamwork, and doing things so that they're built to last. And those are the types of things they took into their business. Those are the things that they transferred into how they looked at the community and trying to help society. They really thought working together was extremely important. They thought giving back to a community that had been so good to them was extremely important.
Ball State's athletic programs also grew considerably in the 1930s. Ball State fielded teams almost immediately after the campus opened in the 1920s. For most of that decade, Paul "Billy" Williams coached the football, basketball, and baseball teams, while simultaneously serving as the athletic director. In those early years, the teams were referred to as Hoosieroons and played other colleges in Indiana. In 1927, the Hoosieroons became the Cardinals, to contrast with the Hoosiers in Bloomington. In the 1930s, Williams hired Branch McCracken to coach basketball, John Magnabosco to coach football, and Williams remained the coach for the baseball team. Reflecting sexist attitudes of the day, the majority of resources for the early athletic programs existed mostly for male students. However, early pioneers at Ball State sought equal opportunities for the college's female students. Grace Woody, Ball State's women's physical education director, created the Women's Athletic Association, which offered athletic opportunities for Ball State's female students. Student enrollment had grown steadily during the 1930s. However, the onset of the Second World War changed life on campus. In 1942, enrollment dropped significantly as students left college to fight the war or support the war effort at home.
The war affected Ball State just about the way it affected every other college and university in the United States. It took college-age men out of the equation. If you were in that, shall we say, that draftable age, right about then, and you wanted to go to college, your service in World War II was going to take place first. That was going to be the priority. And once the war was over with and you were released, you were discharged, go ahead and pursue your education. Either continue your education or start from scratch. An entirely new world. And it comes on very, very fast.
At the onset of the war, President Pittenger retired, and the trustees hired Winfred Wagoner, Ball State's business manager, as acting president. Wagoner carefully guided the college during the war to maintain the educational commitment, but also to provide support for the war effort. Wagoner created two programs, the Army's Specialized Training Program and the Navy's Cadet Aviator Program. Both measures prepared thousands for the war, including 1,200 pilots that served overseas. By the end of the war, 48 Ball State alumni lost their lives fighting. In May of 1945, the Board of Trustees hired John Emmons, the personnel director for Michigan's public schools, as Ball State's sixth president. Emmons went on to lead Ball State for 22 years, implementing numerous changes and guiding the campus through the post-war boom years. Emmons intended to make Ball State a campus of the future and opened many new buildings, expanded academic programs, and enrolled thousands of new students.
If you knew John Emmons, he was a very visionary man, knew exactly what he wanted to do, what vision he had for this campus was for it to grow, become America's finest teachers college, recognized with Columbia and those types of things. He wanted a family institution. He talked to every student on the campus when he walked across the thing. He was just very outgoing, but also had very clear where he wanted to go.
So his forte is teacher education. Well, when the war ends and you have this great influx of students, I think what happened here was you don't have time to do a lot of experimentation. You have to deal with reality. You have to find housing for these students because the housing capacity of the school is going to surpass the existing facilities. You're going to have to hire new faculty. They're going to have to be trained in the disciplines. It's an entirely new world, and it comes on very, very fast.
The influx of veterans and eventually their baby boomer children provided both opportunity and challenges at Ball State. In response, the college entered a period of rapid construction and expansion, including the development of several residence halls. Woodworth, Wagoner, Doherty, Neuer, Studebaker, and La Follette all came into being in the post-war decades.
I'm sure this was a great challenge for Emmons to sustain the institution after World War II because of the growth that was taking place. Fortunately, Emmons was not short on energy, and he wasn't short on ideas, and he had the forceful personality of a determined leader, so he was up to it.
Emmons saw a need to expand the physical space of campus given the increase in student enrollment. Expanding north from the original quad, Ball State added several new buildings in the 1950s, 1960s, and early 1970s, including the Applied Technology Building, the Arts and Communication Building, Hargraves Music Building, Emmons Auditorium, the Cooper Science Building, Schumann Stadium, Llewellyn Pool, and the Teachers College.
Probably his crowning achievement was when he built Emmons Auditorium. People never thought that would happen, and he was able to organize the thing to do it. In fact, if anyone ever looked very carefully, it's always amazing people did not discover that when I was a student, you had an English building, the side towards Woodworth, and then you had the music building, and across the back was a little theater. There's this giant hill down in the middle, and these 3 stories of brick walls. Well, at that point, the state would not fund non-academic spaces, and an auditorium would be a non-academic space. But he now had 3 walls of it built. Specifically, it's a hole. People ask, well, yes, what's this giant hole going to be for eventually here? And then that's the reason it only cost about, what, $1.6 million or something like this. And because he had figured out a way to get a lot of it paid for through the academic buildings being constructed around it.
In the 1950s, Ball State began offering new programs along with the core commitment to teacher education, including pre-law, pre-medicine, music, social science, printing technology, and international studies. As teacher education and training continued to grow, Ball State redefined the mission to allow students with different ambitions to pursue essential skills and understandings and to realize the attitudes, ideals, and values basic to moral and democratic living.
But then during the 50s, we expanded that into doctoral programs, and we started out by entering into agreements with Indiana University and Purdue University to do joint programs. Then we found other areas that we could offer a master's degree in that would be non-teaching, but yet obviously were of importance to students we were recruiting and trying to graduate with credentials they could get work in their field.
In the 1950s, Ball State's graduate program was almost 20 years old. By the 1960s, enrollment in graduate education more than doubled.
John Emmons was told by the leaders of the General Assembly that once Ball State got to 10,000 student population, it could become a university.
By the end of the 1960s, Ball State transitioned from a college to a university, with several new academic colleges, thousands of students, and new programs, facilities, and faculty. In 1961, a separate board of trustees was established for Ball State Teachers College, separating governance from Indiana State. The school's name was shortened to just Ball State College. The growth in programs by way of academic departments created this need for expansion. In 1962, almost 20% of Ball State students took classes outside of teacher training. The growth of students, programs, buildings, and majors allowed for Ball State to transition from a college to a university.
Ball State Teachers College became Ball State University in 1965. And before that time, it was really truly focused primarily on teacher preparation, but it had already branched out to a number of significant areas beyond teaching.
In early 1965, the Indiana General Assembly passed House Bill 1014.
The bill started in the House, and the representative was a man by the name of David Metzger. Well, it passed the House. I believe the vote was 94-3. I don't know who would have voted against making Ball State a university, but there were 3 votes in opposition. Then it went over to the Senate. Vote that I saw there just said it passed. So maybe that was unanimous.
With Governor Brannigan's signature, Ball State College became Ball State University.
I was in the first class to graduate from Ball State University, and I remember when they took the Teachers College sign down and put up the university sign. As students, we felt that was really significant, and we're really proud of that.
Now you're going to have, instead of a college with a bunch of academic departments, you're going to have a university with 5 or so separate colleges, each of whom is going to have its own administration and each of whom is going to have its own faculty.
After transitioning to a university, Ball State reorganized and created the College of Architecture and Planning and the Miller College of Business. Other programs were organized into the College of Fine Arts, the College of Science and Humanities, the College of Applied Sciences and Technology, and the Bedrock Teachers College. The Center for Radio and Television began in 1966, which eventually evolved into the College of Communication, Information, and Media. The honors program, which began in 1959, grew significantly in the years following university status, eventually becoming another Ball State academic college in the 1970s.
So now the challenge, of course, is to start becoming a university rather than simply a teacher's college that tries to function like a university.
In 1965, Ball State added the Human Performance Lab to research exercise physiology. The Human Performance Lab has achieved national recognition in their research efforts. During this same era, Ball State students became increasingly concerned about social issues in the Vietnam War.
If you flunked out, you were going to Vietnam. And I can remember when I graduated, I lost my student deferment and went down for my pre-induction physical. And it's one of those odd circumstances because you know millions before you have fulfilled their military obligation, but as you're going through that physical, you're saying to yourself, geez, I hope they find a lump. But they don't find a lump, and so you're reclassified. You lose your student deferment, and I went home and they just said, all right, we'll call you when it's time to go. And what intervened in my near future, and I think made a difference in my life, because we know going there for millions and millions of men and women made a huge difference in their life, not for the better. The intervention of the lottery system. And I sat there on the couch the night they drew the birth dates to see who was going to be drafted before they ended the draft, and mine was 352nd out of 356. So I was very, very lucky in that sense, because I would not have, if I knew kids in my fraternity who went and didn't come back. I knew everybody has stories like that. They're, for Christ's sake, go to Washington to look at the Vietnam War wall. So I wouldn't have been the same if I came back. So I was very, very lucky there.
In addition to the Vietnam War, students and faculty began criticizing off-campus landlords' discriminatory housing policies in the early 1960s.
It was an entirely different kind of environment than we live in today. Racial discrimination was a pattern and practice that occurred everywhere. I'm originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and in Oklahoma things were totally segregated. So when I arrived at Ball State, I was informed that there were no rooms in the dorms and that I would have to seek housing off campus. And very nicely, someone in the housing office took back the full 3 or 4 page list of off-campus housings and gave me a 1-sheet piece of paper and said, Mr. Hughes, here, you need to take this, because if you go to the others that are close to campus, you're probably going to get embarrassed and have a tough time.
During this time period, the Black Student Union was formed, advocating for courses in African American studies, equality in off-campus housing, and diversity in fraternities and sororities.
With the passage of the Civil Rights Bill in '65, things just began to change within the country. There was a lot more militancy, a lot more pushback. In the '60s, those patterns were just there and pretty much accepted. As I said, the pattern not only was landlords, but the university policy at that time was if you didn't come with the recommendation for a black roommate, they would not assign an African American and a white student to the same room.
In May of 1970, Ball State's Student Senate voted to strike on the 7th of that month to protest the U.S. invasion of Cambodia and the shootings at Kent State. Ball State athletics changed too. In the 1950s and 60s, student athletic teams competed in the Indiana Collegiate Conference against Indiana State, Butler, Valparaiso, St. Joseph's College, and DePauw. But in 1973, Ball State joined the Mid-American Conference to compete against Bowling Green, Kent State, Miami, Ohio, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Toledo, and Western Michigan. With the passage of Title IX in 1972, women's sports increased significantly at Ball State, with competitive teams in volleyball and field hockey. By joining the MAC, Ball State became recognized as a school on par with several prominent Midwestern universities.
And it was an athletic conference. It was really nothing more than an athletic conference. There's never been, programs that are across state lines with the MAC schools in Ohio or Michigan or Northern Illinois and the state of Illinois. It was entirely an athletic conference. And yet it brought faculty into contact with other faculty who were more like what you would say university faculty are like. So that was an important part of being a member of the Mid-American Conference as well.
President Emmons retired in 1968 after 22 years of service. Under his guidance, Ball State radically changed from a small regional teacher education college to a major state university. Over 17,000 students attended Ball State annually in the late 1960s. The university faculty refocused on education, research, and service. After President Emmons' retirement, the Board of Trustees hired the Vice President for Administration at Western Michigan University, John Pruce, as the next president. Pruce led the continued expansion of Ball State University, the most significant of which was the addition of Bracken Library in 1975.
There's a lot of controversy during that time. He took over from Emmons, was trying to move the university forward. He had inherited a brand new university. So it was an important one. They had to enhance the faculty, they had to find more people with doctoral degrees, more diverse backgrounds, and had to encourage more research, had to expand programs.
The transition to a university greatly improved the educational experience at Ball State. In the year before the transition, only 16% of students received non-teaching related degrees. By 1975, 42% of undergraduates graduated from a non-teaching program. In 1981, 89% of all students graduated in non-teaching programs. Ball State, while maintaining its commitment to teacher training, had become an institution of higher education committed to so much more.
What I found through my experience at Ball State was that we were more alike than we were different. I found professors that helped me personally to deal with whatever problems I was having with, to find my way and to grow.
The post-war era brought many rapid changes. This growth brought about a time of instability in the late 1970s and early 1980s. The trouble began in December of 1977 when the University Senate voted no confidence in President John Pruce. Pruce resigned the following March, instituting a period of continuing divisiveness on campus, infighting, and struggle.
John Pruce, in some respects, had the misfortune of following John Emmons, who was widely applauded, widely respected, widely admired, widely loved, and all that. Any person that followed Jack Emmons, in my opinion, was going to face a handicap. There wasn't a year that Jack Emmons was president, probably, that enrollment didn't go up. When John Pruce becomes president, enrollment levels off.
You had a senior faculty who were the powers in the university senate, and they were people who were trying as much as they can to hold on to the old remnants of the reward system of a teacher's college.
And the 1970s were a bad decade for the national economy, not very good for Indiana's economy. And that means the level of funding also stabilizes off. It increases a little bit each year, but there's high inflation. Ball State just had to deal with a different set of circumstances because not that many students were coming to college.
And so you began to get significant changes where you would have situations where we're going to change the salary schedule. We're not going to have a salary schedule anymore. So if you had come to Ball State and I knew how many years you'd been here and what your academic rank was, to the penny on this grid salary schedule, I knew how much money you were making, much like a K-12 system. That began to change in the late 1970s. So you had a significant disconnect between the old guard faculty and President John Pruce, which ultimately led to the University Senate voting no confidence in him.
Following President Pruce's departure, Richard Burkhart served as interim president for 1 year. The Board of Trustees hired a series of presidents after Burkhart, including Jerry Anderson in 1979 and Robert Bell in 1981.
At that point, after Jerry Anderson leaves and Dr. Robert Bell becomes president with Dr. James Cook as the provost and vice president for academic affairs, you really begin to go full bore into changing the entire makeup of the way the faculty are going to be evaluated for tenure and evaluated for promotion to associate and full professor. And that was a real tug of war. And it probably lasted for about a decade until it began to really be formed and shaped out and led more toward what a university reward structure was like for the faculty.
Despite the challenges, Ball State remained committed to student-centered education. Enrollment in the fall of 1980 climbed to over 18,000 students. In March of 1981, the Ball State men's basketball team made it into the NCAA tournament after securing the MAC championship against Northern Illinois. The crises of the late 1970s and early 1980s began to turn around with the hiring of President John E. Worthen in 1984. Worthen, becoming Ball State's 11th president, led the university for 16 years, providing much-needed stability.
When I came to Ball State in 1984 as president, it seemed that the university was going through two transitions. First was we were still transitioning from being a very good teachers' college, preparing students to teach in schools across the state, but we had added 5 additional colleges, and we were actually an institution that offered a variety of academic programs for students to study, but people hadn't really caught on to that.
We began to focus much more on trying to find what I would call the proper niche for Ball State in public education in the state of Indiana. And a lot of that was to try to focus a great deal, and I think quite accurately, on the catchphrase that you no doubt have heard up till now, our best teachers are in the classroom. And that was really true. And so the people here who were by far the best classroom teachers, they were in the classroom. They weren't off doing research someplace. They were doing research, but they weren't gone. They were teaching people like you.
Our trustees and our faculty wanted the people in Indiana, and particularly the General Assembly, to understand is that when they thought of public higher education, they wanted to hear that people were thinking of IU and Purdue and Ball State. We decided to give emphasis to the teaching side, particularly to differentiate the university from the great research universities of IU and Purdue.
So an undergraduate coming here as a freshman, sophomore, could pretty much expect to have the best classroom teachers on this campus teaching him or her in classroom laboratory settings. And that was an important thing that Dr. Worthen really championed, and the other senior academic leaders of the institution did as well. So that was a really important change in the lives of students on this campus. More importantly, I think it's said to the state legislature, the Commission for Higher Education, all of our alums, other constituencies off campus, this is the kind of institution we want to be.
President Worthen instituted a number of positive changes and reaffirmed Ball State's primary mission, which rested on student-centered education, innovative curriculum, and first-class facilities and resources.
Very early after I came, we began to lay the groundwork for developing 5-year capital campaigns, and we conducted the first one, really began about 1987, and then later we ran another 5-year campaign. And the purpose was to raise money for scholarships for students, to attract the best students from the state, and to have distinguished professorships. And also we raised some of the money for new buildings.
President Worthen oversaw construction and development of the Ball Communications Building with several state-of-the-art production facilities and the establishment of the Indiana Academy for Science, Mathematics, and Humanities.
We opened the Bell Building just after I came, and then we built the Ball Building, the arena, the Alumni Center, the Human Performance Lab.
By 1990, over 19,000 students attended Ball State University. As the decade began, Ball State admitted a student body with higher overall SAT scores and almost doubled the number of African American students from 1985 to 1993. Ball State athletics continued a streak of successes in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Men's basketball appeared in the NCAA tournament several times in 1986, 1989, 1990, 1993, and 1995. The Ball State football team appeared in the California Bowl in 1989 and in the Las Vegas Bowl twice, in 1993 and 1996. Ball State also made great progress in improving facilities and sidewalks for those with disabilities. Led by the Office of Disabled Student Development, the university added new technologies and academic opportunities.
We started out with improving physical access. You know, the international symbol of access, the wheelchair figure when you park and all that, unfortunately is a little limiting because you only think about wheelchairs. But we started one by one to make our buildings accessible, to put in curb ramps, to put in automatic doors, and to do all sorts of things for the physical access. Well, then the next step was technical access, particularly for persons who are blind. And we made some really nice inroads.
By the millennium, Ball State had reaffirmed its institutional commitment to student-centered education, continued to improve facilities, and initiated new programs, course offerings, and services to the student body. The stability and steady growth in the 1990s allowed for the university to embark upon a new direction in the 21st century.
One thing I've always been struck by is how innovative Ball State has been. You know, we talked about the starting of new colleges and these programs within the colleges, such as the College of Communication, Information, and Media, are actually known for being responsive to the world around them and innovating and growing and changing. I think that tradition will continue because it seems to be somehow born in the DNA of Ball State.
The first 2 decades of the 21st century marked significant change and progress at Ball State University. The regional campus became a nationally recognized university, leading both the state and the Midwest in experiential education, community impact, and technology.
Ball State for years compared itself to other schools. It was always being compared to Purdue, to IU, occasionally to Notre Dame. It had to really go through some changes where it identified what its skills, talents, gifts were. And I think they have found that in that they're willing to reach out to others. People are attracted to what they will gain and not just a name.
In 2000, President Worthen retired and the Board of Trustees hired Blaine Brownell to serve as president. Under Brownell, the university's enrollment bounced back to historically high levels, and the university received a $20 million grant from the Lilly Endowment to conduct research on the design, creation, distribution, and effects on converging digital media.
And we were charged with finding ways to bring more immersive learning opportunities to our students. So it was through a set of funding opportunities that we had through the Lilly Endowment that started what we called the Business Fellows Program and the Center for Media Design, that we learned the lessons necessary to build the capacity on our campus and to develop the infrastructure to support immersive learning in a much larger way.
The 2000s also inaugurated a building boom that continues to this day. The Art and Journalism Building opened at the center of campus, followed by the Fisher Training Complex, the Schaefer Tower, the David Letterman Communication and Media Building, Park Hall, and Kinghorn Hall.
We worked hard to develop a strategic plan, but to implement a strategic plan, you frequently need resources because, in truth, every new idea requires new funds. And so we worked hard to raise the funds to support immersive learning, to raise the funds to support the development of new academic programs such as emerging media.
After President Brownell's departure, Provost Beverly Pitts served as interim president briefly in 2004. In that year, the Board of Trustees hired Dr. Joanne Gora as the 14th president of Ball State University. New construction matched with renovations of older structures, modernizing them for the next century, including a renovation of West Quad and the Fine Arts Building, Schumann Stadium, and several residence halls.
The growth of the campus is so impressive to me, and I believe, and I don't want to diminish the input of others, but I believe President Gora was largely responsible for the physical change that it underwent and the much higher profile it has now than when I was a student. So you see this burgeoning center of education, and you can't help but want to be a part of it.
Improvements were made to landscaping throughout the campus, and the entire length of McKinley Avenue was modified in the first half of the decade. Arguably the biggest construction undertaking is the geothermal energy system.
When it was completed, it was the largest closed-loop geothermal project in the country. It enabled us to provide heating and cooling to more than 46 campus buildings. It enabled us to save $2 million annually in operating funds and to cut our carbon footprint in 1/2.
President Gora served for 10 years and reaffirmed the university's commitment to community engagement and experiential learning.
I think through immersive learning, we were able to engage the community in ways that really had never been done before. And we were able to define community broadly. So we weren't talking only about Muncie, we were certainly talking about working with Muncie, with Muncie companies and with the Muncie community, but we were in Indianapolis, we were all over the state of Indiana. We even had projects that took place in Italy, in Hong Kong, really all over the world.
The concept of immersive learning is being a really intense experiential learning requires that students get their hands on things. So immersive learning as a program was designed to give those students these intense experiences working with a variety of disciplines and real-world applications.
Experiential programs, also known as immersive learning, originated at the Virginia B. Ball Center for Creative Inquiry in the early 2000s.
The Virginia Ball Center, I think, is the tip of the spear for the immersive learning effort by the university. It's taken students through the seminars and being able to put them in a very immersive process where they're not even in regular classes, where they're doing something that has more exposure to the real world and what these students may get into after getting out of the university.
It is not an internship. It is a totally different experience than an internship. It is a unique opportunity for students to work in the kinds of environments that they will confront when they graduate from Ball State.
In addition to experiential learning, the faculty, staff, and students of Ball State University worked closely with many communities across the state of Indiana.
Ball State gave the city of Gary, the children, their first access to the internet. It was the CICS program that worked with me, that provided internet connectivity, that helped train staff members. We didn't charge them one penny. We got a grant from the government. We had graduate students who provided a lot of encouragement to others who live in the Gary area, some children, but quite a few professionals. And they thought, we can get this kind of training at Ball State? I think that's that way that the word kind of ekes out about what Ball State can offer a student, can offer a family. It's the fact that Ball State serves.
This commitment to Indiana continues Ball State's 100-year legacy of providing research, service, and support to the state's residents.
We have worked with literally thousands of organizations to try to solve real-world problems, and the students have been responsible for coming up with real-world solutions to those problems.
After Dr. Gora retired in the spring of 2014, the Board of Trustees hired Paul Ferguson as the 15th president of Ball State University. During his tenure, Ball State announced plans to create a new College of Health and obtained state funding for a $49 million College of Health building.
Well, the condition of our health in general is of paramount importance, and the quality of life. We're obviously living longer, but we face a lot of different challenges than we might have 10, 20, 30 years ago. Ball State to step forward and say, we got this. We're not just willing, but we're able to lead the charge, is answering a call higher than even its university mission.
After President Ferguson's resignation in early 2016, the university's provost, Terry King, served as interim president throughout most of 2016 and early 2017.
When I served as interim president, I had greater opportunities to work outside the campus. To a person, they all were appreciative of Ball State and all the things that had happened there. I also got to meet a lot of alumni that I would not have met otherwise. They all told stories about their experiences at Ball State, and those stories were always around their interactions with faculty members. The opportunity to work with somebody who inspired them and they say was responsible for their success is a very uplifting feeling.
Ball State's Board of Trustees hired Jeffrey Mearns in the spring of 2017 to serve as the 17th president of the university.
Yeah, so I was attracted to Ball State because of the fundamental strength of the institution. We're nearly 100 years old and have a long history of producing outstanding graduates, of transforming their lives, empowering them to serve others, to serve their communities, to advance their families, and to advance our country. And so I was attracted to the strength of the institution, and what I've discovered is that the institution is even stronger than I had anticipated during the process.
The students and their academic offerings lie at the heart of Ball State's educational experience. Beginning as a one-building division of Indiana State in 1918, with a single college and a handful of departments serving a few hundred students, Ball State transformed to a university with 8 colleges, 190 undergraduate majors, and 140 graduate programs, serving over 22,000 students.
I think in the future, we will continue to be on the forefront of academic innovation. We see it in many of our programs. We see it in our commitment to the expansion of immersive learning. But we also will remain grounded in those enduring values that are represented by beneficence and that are articulated in that beneficent pledge. Those enduring values will not change. They still define this university.
Ball State's student curriculum blends traditional academics and scholarly research with applied experiential learning projects dedicated to connecting students with the community.
From knowing what I know about not just its reputation, but where it's leading, I'm just so impressed that it continues to respond to today's needs.
Ball State's research efforts continue to connect students and faculty with national endeavors, including the Human Performance Lab's work with NASA and the Department of Defense, the Center for Middletown Studies' continued exploration of Muncie as a typical American city, being classified as a community-engaged university from the Carnegie Foundation, and top rankings for many programs and initiatives.
They continue to make our educational experience distinctive here at a public research university. A commitment to excellence, a commitment to character and integrity, a commitment to respecting all people.
Ball State's alumni, almost 178,000 living individuals, apply the knowledge gained from their academic experiences in many different professions. As the university celebrates the Centennial anniversary, the students remain at the center of Ball State's mission and will continue to serve as the primary focus for the next 100 years. Ball State University remains committed to our students, our faculty, Muncie, and Indiana. Through research, education, professional development, service, and community engagement, Ball State continues its legacy of innovation and beneficence into the 21st century.
After 25 years of being a professor here, I've seen the number of students that I have had in the classroom change 3 times. Changes in the K-12 system, changes in the economy have adjusted the way students prepare for college. Because of their changes, I've had to make myself more open and willing to serve.
Having gone to college and graduated, if I had not done that, I would have been a different person. So having that as something that I accomplished was huge for me, as well as being a guiding vision toward what I wanted to do and how I could get there.
Today, I think what I think makes Ball State unique and great is something that's been around since actually back in 1961. When I came to Ball State, in spite of how things were in the country and the community, I found Ball State to be a very friendly kind of place.
At a university, you have presidents come and go. There's been 17 presidents in the 100 years of Ball State University, and certainly a lot of faculty members have come and gone. But students come here and they eventually graduate and become alumni. And the alumni are always around. They never leave. They're kind of like the soul of an institution. So they represent the past, but they also think about the future of the university. I came to appreciate the alumni and their passion for Ball State University as something that is absolutely necessary and important for it to continue to evolve.
The centennial anniversary of Ball State allows us to pause and proudly recognize 100 years of our history. From a small one-building teachers institute to a major university, the journey serves as a reminder of our legacy of excellence. As we look forward to the next 100 years, Ball State will continue to lead in innovative education, experiential learning, and will stay committed to our students' learning experience.
One, two, 1, 2, 3.